If you're about to pack your bags and relocate from Florida to Salem, Oregon, chances are you're feeling a bit nervous and have a whole lot of unanswered questions. When you relocate from across the country, it can feel like you're moving to a whole new world. Just like you, I decided to pack up everything and take a leap of faith by relocating to Salem. And while I didn't move from Florida, I still had a whole lot of questions and concerns. Heck, I even thought that Salem might not be a good place to live. I had it in my head that since Salem was the state capital, it must just be the political lame duck of Oregon. Well, I'm happy to tell you that that couldn't be further from the truth. In this video, I'm going to break down some of the biggest differences between living in Florida and Salem, Oregon. My name is Clarity Odd, and I'm a local real estate broker here in Salem who specializes in relocations. And just like you, I relocated to little old Salem, and now I get to make videos all about this amazing city for you, my future clients. If you want to work with us in the home buying process, go down to the description of this video where you're going to find all of our contact information. Reach out so that we can help you. Full discretion, people. I have never lived in Florida, and the closest I have ever come to being a Floridian is simply going to Disney World. But I do know from my YouTube clients who relocate from Florida to Salem, they've told me that the lifestyle here in Salem is a 180 difference. Salem is like a big little town. If you are wanting the hustle and bustle of a city, you are not going to find much of that here in Salem. For example, downtown Salem usually shuts down around 6 p.m. with a few different restaurants and bars staying open a little bit later. But you can expect that most restaurants are going to be closed on Sunday and other ones on Monday. And what you're left with is kind of a quiet downtown. So unless you are here during the business hours from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, downtown can feel pretty darn quiet, and it doesn't have that big hustle and bustle vibe of a big metropolitan city. One of my favorite slow pace life activities, and that is taking my dog for a walk at Minto Brown State Park, which is located right on the edge of downtown Salem. So if you are coming from a city in Florida that doesn't have a very dog-friendly atmosphere, you are going to be so incredibly happy to learn that Salem is really, really dog-friendly, and you're always going to see people walking around with their dogs. In Minto Brown State Park, there's even an off-leash dog area, and it's just one of the best places to go if you love watching puppies be really happy and going crazy and running around like crazy kookies that they are. Most dogs do live inside here. It just gets too cold in the winter, so you really don't see that many yard dogs. And from a few of my clients, I have heard that depending on where you're coming from in Florida, it might be more common for your dog to live its best life outside more than inside. But I don't really know if this is true or not, or if it's just hearsay, but I would love to hear your thoughts. Do your dogs in Florida live inside with you, or is it pretty common for them to live outside? Let me know in the comments. If this is your first time to this channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in Salem, Oregon, make sure that you subscribe and boop that little bell to be notified each week when I put out a new video. The next thing that you, my friends, need to be aware of is the seasonality of the Pacific Northwest. I know that because you are so dang far south there in Florida, you guys don't really have to deal with the same levels of seasonality that we have here in the Pacific Northwest. And you've probably already heard a lot about the 8 to 9 months of rain we get throughout the year here in Salem, but I'm going to turn you on to the concept of seasonality that goes far beyond the weather. And here in Salem, Oregon, we have sun seasonality. And what this means is that depending on the time of the year that we are in, the sun is going to rise and set at very, very different times. We do practice daylight savings here in Salem, which means that every single November it becomes god awful and we just set our clocks back an hour. And I bring all of this up to say that it has a very drastic effect on us. And because we are so much further north than you guys are, you should expect on the shortest day of the year here in winter, our sun is setting at 4:30 p.m. So if you're used to the sun setting at 7 or 8 or 9 p.m. or, whatever time it normally sets for you, when you experience the sun setting at 4:30 p.m. for the first time, it's just a little bit wonkapoo and shocking to the system. Having sun seasonality really does affect your mood, and it's going to affect it in ways that you've probably never even encountered before. Depending on the type of job that you have here in Salem, there's a good chance that you're going to go into the office in the middle of winter in the morning time. You likely won't see the sun, and then you come out at 5 p.m. and the sun is already set, and you've spent a whole entire day where you haven't experienced the sun at all that day. Lucky for you, I've created a whole entire survival guide for winters here in the Pacific Northwest so that you can stay happy and you don't become depressed here in the winters. I've linked that survival guide in the description of this video, which you should check out after this one. If you're finding value in this video so far, give it a thumbs up and go down to the comments and tell me why you're thinking about moving away from Florida to Salem, Oregon instead. Okay. We talked about the sun seasonality, and I know that you've already heard about the rainy winters, but I want to let you know that the rain that we have here in Salem, it's not always downpouring. A lot of the times you're going to experience the rain here in the form of misty rain. And while that sounds majestic, it's not, because the sky is gray the entire day and it's just really misty, and you kind of look sweaty and your hair gets kind of weird and frizzy. It's not a good look for anyone. Here in the Willamette Valley, which is where Salem resides, we do have a lot of fog in the morning in the winter times, and I think that this is actually a really cool feature of Salem. And having come from Portland, I expected that the weather was going to be the exact same from Portland to Salem, and although they are very similar in terms of their weather, the fog is one big aspect that I had no idea I was about to encounter when I ended up relocating here to Salem. The fog that rolls in here in the winter time and blankets Salem, it's really, really beautiful. But I also have to tell you that you need to turn on your fog lights when you are driving in the fog. If those windshield wipers are going, baby, you need to be turning on your lights, because it is very hard to see in front of you when the fog is super thick, which also means the other cars, they're probably not going to be able to see you very well either. So be extra cautious. Windshield wipers are going, put those lights on as well. And since we're on the topic of weather and weather patterns, so much fun, you better believe that we're going to be talking about natural disasters. Now, I have zero concept about what it's like to live in a place that has things like hurricanes or tornadoes, because we just don't have those things here in the Pacific Northwest. But what we do have is flooding during super rainy seasons, and we're pretty prepared for that, so it's not like it's a big deal. But you should be mindful that we do have flood zones here in Salem in a very specific section, but there might be some parts of Salem that you want to avoid because you don't want to be living in a floodplain. We also have fire season here in the summertime, which again is pretty darn normal just because we're surrounded by so much forest. So having seasonal fires is totally normal. It's only kind of freaky and scary when they get out of control. Sometimes people have controlled burns and then they get out of control and they become out of control burns. So that's a little bit scary. But in terms of natural disasters, the ones that we're really waiting for is the big ass earthquake. Here in Salem and really all of Oregon, we are sitting on the Cascadia subduction zone, which is right off the coast of Oregon, and we are long overdue for a massive earthquake. So if you know anything about geography, or you just like studying subduction zones because, I don't know, you like geography, whatever. So you're going to already know that we are long overdue for a big earthquake here in Oregon. And pretty much how it's happening is we have a subduction zone that's going down like this. There's another one like this. And it's kind of getting stuck, right? The crust is still moving, but it's getting caught. And so we are waiting for the moment where, boop, it goes like that. Yay! And you know what? As much as I'm talking about this, it's really not something that people think about or talk about in every day. But I know since you're coming from Florida, this is probably not something that's familiar to you, but I just felt like I had to match the hurricane level of energy that you guys have and bring to the table something that we have. So we might not have hurricanes, but we do have an upcoming earthquake that's long overdue. The next thing that you Floridian people need to be aware of is the fact that you are probably going to have some terrible allergies the first few years that you live here. This is going to be especially true if you are allergic to things like grass, because Salem, Oregon is located just north of the grass seed capital of the world, and that is called Lynn County. Like, literally, it's self-proclaimed maybe the grass seed capital of the world. I don't know how legit that is or not, but just be prepared to sneeze. We are surrounded by so many trees here and so much lush green nature, but you also get a lot of different kinds of pollens for your cute little nose to be unfamiliar with. So do what I do and get yourself a renewing subscription on Amazon for Zyrtec and keep Big Pharma in business. I, for one, can't go more than a day without my allergy medicine in the summertime because my allergies are just, they go bananas. And even though I only located from 45 minutes north, the type of pollen here in Salem was so unfamiliar to my little nose that I just ended up sneezing all the time. The next thing that you need to be aware of is air conditioning. A lot of older homes here in Salem were not constructed with central air or air conditioning, but a super simple solution for that is get yourself a little mini split. Those things are pretty darn common to find in Salem, and they are the best alternative, I think, to that central air conditioning units that you might be used to. Back in the good old day, it used to not get very hot here in the summertime, and so you really just needed to open up your window at nighttime to cool yourself off. But now to keep cool in the summertime, you really do need AC because we are starting to see summers that are much more intense and hot. Although I feel like Florida summers would still be hotter, but for the Pacific Northwest, it gets kind of hot. So I think it's going to be in your best interest to either find yourself a home with air conditioning or one that can be retrofitted with a mini split system to keep yourself nice and cool in the summer times. Now, since we're on the topic of being hot and sticky, let's talk about humidity. We really don't have a problem with humidity here, but the one caveat to this for those ladies and gentlemen, I guess, out there with longer hair is that misty rain. Your hair is going to frizz up. That misty rain might as well be that fucking humidity because your hair is just going to go bananas. And I cannot tell you how long I have tried to fight the crazy frizz and razzle-tazness of the wintertime hair plague that we get here. I haven't found a solution. If you have a solution, you know how to combat that stupid humidity and frizz, please let me know in the comments because at this point, being 30-something, I am desperate now. The next thing that we are going to be talking about is Salem's proximity to some other cool spots around Oregon. Salem is located just 45 minutes south of Portland, so if you are missing those big city vibes, you can take a quick trip up to Portland, and if you want to test your luck and see if you experience a big-ass earthquake, go to the Oregon beach. It's only less than an hour and a half away from Salem. Now, if you feel like going up to the mountains to ski or sled, which is personally my favorite way to hang out with the snow and the abominable snowmen up there, you can be at the mountain in just like 2 hours flat. There is so much to do within a 2-hour radius of Salem that you are never going to be wondering what you should be doing for recreational activities outside because there's just so much to do and so many different landscapes and sceneries to be a part of. The next point that we are going to be talking about is taxes. Good old taxes. Oregon does have an income tax, so depending on how much you're making here, you are going to be taxed in a certain way. And if I remember correctly, the tax brackets range from about 5-ish to 9-ish% depending on how much you're making. Definitely talk to your CPA out here in Oregon because I am no CPA or tax
expert by any means, but I do know that in Florida, you guys don't have income tax. So this is a big aspect of taxes that is going to feel very different from Florida to Oregon. I also know that you guys have sales tax, and here in Oregon, I'm happy to tell you that we don't have sales tax at all. So whether you're buying physical products or online products or going out to a restaurant, you're never going to pay taxes on those goods and services when you are purchasing them. If you enjoyed this video, you are going to want to watch this one next. Bye, friends!